Hello Internet, my name is Ace and today I'm going to be talking with Tim Jacobus about his art process for creating Goosebumps book covers. This is a clip from an interview I did with Tim Jacobus where we talked about Goosebumps, we talked about digital process and acrylic process and a bunch of other things as well. And the actual full-length interview is coming out on the 10th of November. If it's before that date, then hit the subscribe button. If it's after the 10th of November 2016, then just go to my channel and you will find the full interview on there. Okay, so here it is. Have you got any tips for like artists that maybe have grown up nowadays before all that old technology that you was talking about?
Well, I think that's the really important thing here, because here's what I've noticed. Now, I work with a bunch of people now who are of the next generation who didn't do any artwork traditionally in their life. Everything they've done is digital. And I work with some really skilled designers who cannot draw.
Yeah,
and
it's crazy.
Going back a few years ago, that would be impossible. That never would happen. So I think it's opened the field so that there's more people in it, and so these people can exist and be successful in the business. But I think that ability to go back and hit those traditional skills, go back and pick up a pencil and do some drawing, do some painting. If you have an ability to draw today, that's what pushes you ahead of all these people, because every once in a while, no matter how cool or how unbelievably amazing those programs are, you're gonna need to draw something somewhere.
Yeah, that's it. To me, just solid foundations. Like even going back at the old what's it called? The old, like the old animation books where it teaches you from like construction, from just basic circles and things like that.
Yeah.
And just learning about turning things in 3D space. All things like perspective. Like to me, I absolutely adore perspective. It's just a thing that I never get tired of like studying, because it's just, there's so many cool things you can do with perspective. I mean, if you look at like the curvilinear stuff, your stuff especially from like maybe a third of the way in for the books, like just that curvilinear perspective was just something that you associate with Goosebumps.
Yeah, that was obviously that was very conscious. That early on, you would have things that were interesting, but you wanted it to be more interesting. And as soon as we started warping the perspective and started to do the tile floors and the tile ceiling, so you could really...
there's a tile on every book. There's the checkerboard pattern.
Exactly, because that would really play up that whole warped scenario. And again, and like you say, you have to be able to know real perspective before you can start to do that warped perspective and do it effectively and efficiently.
Yeah. So let's say a digital artist wanted to kind of flip the things a little bit and wanted to trade pixels for pigment and like start their first like traditional pieces without the help of all multiplier layers and endless tools and warps and all things like that. What would be your kind of starting point for someone who, like I say, who's never picked up acrylics
here's
before?
A good one, and here's something that I still use all the time, even though I'm doing something digital. Try and start your original sketch in pencil and do it outside traditionally on a piece of paper, and don't get hung up on it. You don't even have to get it that far, but just start out with something that's natural. Then scan that thing in. Now start working on it so that you've started with something that's organic before it goes in. It's a really easy first step. Almost anybody can do it, and then build up from there. That's how I move all my stuff now. Where start out as a quick sketch, don't get hung up on shading or any of that stuff. Dump it into the computer, clean up the edges, and then I start to shade using the digital tools, and then I submit my sketch from there. So
someone who's like I say, they've got the fundamentals down, say digitally, but what if they wanted to say do an acrylic piece for the first time? Like, how does that translate?
Okay. Yeah. Start out small. Don't commit yourself to a
mural, huge
8 foot by 4 foot monster, because it's gonna kill you. So yeah, get yourself a small canvas, a small piece of illustration board. Acrylic paints are nice because you don't have to buy full sets. You buy a couple of colors. Actually, what I would suggest, and it's something that I have become almost addicted to right now, is just working in black and white. Get some acrylic white, and that white and black are so inexpensive. I think you can get like a gallon of each for $4. So and that will give you the basis for what you're doing. You don't get hung up on colors and mixing and I'm having a hard time. It's black and white. You can sculpt, for lack of a better term, you can sculpt a good painting using simple black and white acrylics.
Drawing fundamentals is number one for me, and then number two is value, because I think you can pretty much get away with any color scheme as long as the values are correct. It's going to work somewhat, obviously.
You're dead on there. All the color in the world is not going to save an illustration or a painting that has poor values and poor contrast. So if you can get it to work in black and white, you're right. Anything you put in there, any Goosebumps combination will work properly if your values
you proved that.
correct.
You proved that in the 90s. Just slap anything, like, don't worry about saturation. The more the better, and it worked because the values were correct. And is there any brands of acrylic paints that you have lived by through all this time?
No, there are some that are a little more expensive that are a little bit better. Even the most inexpensive Liquitex acrylics are perfectly good. I use them on Goosebumps paintings. I don't know if there's a long-term loss of color. If we took a look at one of those Goosebumps paintings that was 25 years old and compared it to something that was done today, would there be color loss? That I can't tell. I have paintings that are old. Most of them are under glass, so I haven't noticed anything. So I think you're fine with your baseline. As long as it's kind of a brand name. I wouldn't go with the
Walmart kind of bumper.
Right, yeah. Exactly. That's what I was just going to say. Don't go for any bargain style, because again, some colors are a little pricey. Your cadmiums and stuff start to creep up in color, in price.
Nowhere near as bad as oils, though. I mean,
exactly.
What about working digitally? The way that I work is I do a value painting first. I'll work in black and white, or I'll do it monochromatics. I'll work in some color because I get bored of staring at black and white all day, and I'll just work in different values of a certain color, and then go over the top with color layers and things like that, and then paint opaquely on top of that digitally to obviously fix things, and obviously when colors added, things change. And so is that your process working digitally, or do you just go straight in with color? Or
no, I do exactly what you do. See, that what's beautiful about the digital thing is, okay, so I start my sketch outside, I put my sketch in. Then I take layers in Photoshop and I reduce the opacity down to anywhere from 30 to 50%. And then I take out black and I start laying my values over top of that. Then I can put more layers over top, and then there's a transparent effect to it. So where 230% cross, I get a 60, and I start to build my sketch out like that. And it's beautiful digital. You can erase, which when you're painting, there is no erase. And so then when my sketch is done, it's got a nice set of values already built into it. Once the client okays it, I'm painting right over top of it, just like you. That it's because it's all right there. And again, you just start blocking in, getting a feel for the colors and how you like them. Again, the beauty is, a Goosebumps painting, I could spend a whole day painting the background leaves in blues and greens, and when I get done, I go, oh, you know what? They should have been purple, and I could spend the whole next day painting them purple. Where digital world, you just start to play with the slider, and you got your purple leaves.
It is just insane how especially for me, the biggest thing to get my head around the pre-digital age is not the tools, it's not anything like that, because I still love working traditionally. The thing is
reference is there. Like it's so easy to like be like, what does a lion look like from like 3/4 behind, like from slightly, and you've got that in like 30 seconds. Whereas like I imagine in the 90s you just had like piles of encyclopedias and you're like, well, that angle's gonna have to do.
I'm telling you, it's so funny. I just thought of this the other day because what we used to do is you used to keep a massive set of files in a filing cabinet, and you would have a file on horses. And you also subscribed to as many magazines as you could afford. So the magazines would come in, you'd read them, and then you'd take out your razor blade and you would just start cutting them up. And then you would take that pile of pictures and sort them into folders. So yeah, that was my Google. It was a drawer full of just random photos. National Geographic was just a place where you always grab stuff because they were such fabulous photos. But yeah, I gotta tell you today, it's so nice. And I would spend full days in the library.
I can imagine. Like, say if now I wanted to do like a noir painting, like a 40s noir sort of painting, I'm like, what's the clothing like? What kind of stuff were they wearing in like the 40s and things like that? And it's just literally 3 seconds, and you've just got pages and pages and pages of images, and you're like, okay, that's what they wore in the 40s. But like, God, I can't imagine like being like noir stylized clothing. Like, where's that in the library? Which aisle's that down?
Exactly. But that's also something I miss. I mean, you get a little of it. You're like you say, you're looking for a specific image, and you're directed right there, and you'll find it. But the thing about the library is, you would go there, and at the library I went to, it was a big county library, very big, and all the bigger photograph-based books were on the bottom shelves, because they couldn't fit them on the top shelf. So I would just wander through and just be grabbing books haphazardly. I am looking for something, but I ended up finding other things and researching other things. So, you had to stay focused, but I also found a lot of really interesting things every single time I went there, where sure, I've discovered some cool things doing searches on the internet where I was looking for A and I end over at Z. And
yeah, but in that transition, you end up like just naturally on Google Images, you're like, right, I'm looking for a lion. And you go like lion. Then random porn comes up, and you're like, what? But no, I don't want porn. Like, scroll past that, and then you end up, like you say, you end up in like some world of like another, and you're like, okay, this is cool.
Well, I think I got better from that. I don't know.
But as well, it's like it has made people a lot lazier, I think, like with their ability to draw and things like that. Because to me, I mean, you can always tell when someone's traced an image, and it doesn't look right to me. Like, I'm like a big believer of pushing things, like caricature everything. Like something quite often looks more like something if you caricature it, and you're like pushing the things which you think of when you think of a lion. You think of the big teeth and the mouth and stuff like that. And you can push that more, and you can turn the eyes down a bit and up the mane and things like that. And you're just amplifying those things. Whereas like, because just reference is so easy, you can just be like, drag it into Photoshop and then start painting over the top of it. It's like, that's not the point. That you need to push things and like really mold them until they look like just something that couldn't exist in reality, unless you're going for that reality thing. But I think with illustration stuff like that, I think that side has been lost a little bit, and you get a lot of like, you lose a lot of energy, I think, when people are tracing things, and like things just look a little dead. Whereas like if you're drawing, especially if you're starting super loose and stuff like that, and you're just pushing things and like you're just pushing the gesture and things like that, it looks so much better to me.
Absolutely. Again, even back in the day, when it was traditional, you could even tell when someone opened the book and then took a piece of tracing paper and traced off of that, then transferred it to their drawing, and then, but there was still you got a little bit, there was still an art transfer there, slightly artistic. Like you say now, you can spot it a million miles away when somebody just scans in a photo, and it's in there because there's something happening in that photo, whether it's a perspective thing or a foreshadowing or something, and it's because of the photo's limitation, you're going, yeah, but you should have been able to spot that and draw past that and fix that. So, yeah, of course, you've seen, my Goosebumps stuff. I have some stuff that's a little bit more realistic, but I do exactly what you're talking about. You exaggerate your point, whatever you're trying to do. If you're trying to make it frightening, then you make dramatic all those things that are frightening. If you're trying to make it peaceful, you try to, play up those things so that they're more dominant. And it's more enjoyable to you. You're the guy who's creating. It's more enjoyable to you if you're letting this thing evolve on its own. You're going from nothing.
Right. So a couple last really quick questions. So are you using like a Cintiq when you're working digitally? Or are you working on like a tablet,
You work on a tablet. Yeah, I have.
Really? My brain can't work like that. I've tried.
See, again, that's all I knew. Like when they gave me my first computer and said, "Here's a mouse," I wanted to hang myself. Yeah. It was awful. And then when they're like, "Well, there's this pad, and you hold the pen and you move your hand like you normally do," I was like, "All right." My brain can associate that. So I've been doing that since I started, and it was around 1999, 2000 was when I
so it was like pretty early to the front.
Yeah, but I wasn't. I got it, and I was trying to learn it then. I didn't actually use it professionally, probably for maybe 2 or 3 years, and then at some point. The business actually kind of made me do it. They all just said, "Yeah, listen, we don't want any more traditional art. We want digital. So ramp it up." And by then, I had enough raw skill to make the transition. That was probably my biggest fear, was that the quote unquote new stuff wouldn't have the same feel or wouldn't look like my old stuff. And I labored really hard to make sure that. If you look at what I've done, like the artwork that I did for the Goosebumps movie compared to an old Goosebumps, you should be able to put them side by side and go, "Oh yeah, that's Tim's stuff," and it still holds up.
That was awesome getting to talk to Tim. Tim is an amazing person. He's one of my favorite people in the whole world. He's so talented yet so humble. And it was just great getting to talk to him about his process for creating Goosebumps books, because growing up I was a huge fan of the books and I mainly collected them because of the art, and now as an adult I can go back and look at his art and appreciate it. So it was absolutely amazing. If you want to see the full interview, and it's before the 10th of November 2016 right now, then hit that subscribe button down below. And if it's after then just go to my channel and you can see it on there. If you've got anything out of this video at all, click the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and yeah, like I said, this was just awesome for me. I don't really know what to say now. Just check back for the full interview soon, and until next time, have an awesome week, and I'll see you later. Bye bye. If you want to support me and in turn grab some awesome goodies for yourself, such as early and extra videos and Google Hangouts with me from as little as $1 a month, head on over to patreon.com/aceconnell. I'll see you there.